Hi, welcome to Amber in the Kitchen. We are making our Thanksgiving pies today. Check the previous video for how to make your pie crust. Two different methods that I showed there. And I'm going to start with our apple pie. Okay, so usually you use tart apples for apple pie because the sugar that you put in balances really well with a tart apple. In this recipe, I'm using 4 green apples, Granny Smith, and 4 Fuji apples. Hi, Evan.
I'm thirsty.
You're thirsty? Okay. First, I want to show you guys how to peel the apple and prep it. I've got a bowl full of apples already prepped right there because I didn't want video to take forever. But it's pretty simple. You just peel across like that and peel across the bottom like that and then down the sides. Really simple. Try not to miss any bits because that will give a tough texture in your pie. And when you are peeling, you notice some softer spots or something, I just dig them out just in case, because I don't want someone to have a weird bite of pie. You can use your eye remover from your potato peeler and dig those out just like that, and no one will know. Okay, so that's your peels. Those go in my compost. Now you put the apple down and just cut straight with your knife. Don't bother messing around with a peeler or a corer, excuse me, not a peeler. Don't bother with that thing. You're just gonna like hurt yourself. And then you cut these into thin slices. Okay, the main thing is that your slices are about the same size because you want them to cook evenly. You don't want to have like a crispy apple next to a mushy apple. It could give a weird mouthfeel. Ideally, when I make a pie, I would like to put more than 1 or 2 varieties in. But I had to go with what I had to go with. So here we go. We got apple, Granny Smith, and Fuji. Now this apple pie calls for 8 apples. So I've got 4 Fuji and I've got 4 Granny Smith. If you just want to use Granny Smith, please do. And if you don't care for apple pie made with Granny Smith, choose whatever you like. Because it really doesn't matter. So now if you have to cut these up in advance, I put it with water and a little bit of sugar so they don't brown. And you can tell the difference. My Fuji apples have like a brownish appearance and my Granny Smiths are a little bit tinted green. Now, you also don't have to cut your apples in thin slices like this. If you like, you can have a chunkier apple and cut it that way. So it's all just about your preference, what you prefer. Okay, so now we're going to start making the rest of our filling. I'm going to put this up here. In our saucepan, I've got a stick of butter, unsalted butter. I'm going to start melting that, and then we've got some flour. We're going to make a roux in our saucepan, and then there's sugar, brown sugar, and water in here. I'm going to add that as well to our mix over here. I use one of my new holiday spatulas. It's so pretty. We'll see how it stands up to the heat and my craziness. But all right, so while this butter is starting to melt, I'm going to go ahead and start pulling out my pie crust and getting that rolled out for you guys. Okay, this is a 2-layer crust. So there's a bottom crust and a top crust. So I am going to start with our bottom crust. Okay, this hasn't been in the refrigerator for quite a half an hour yet, but I wanted to see if I could get it rolled out. I might have to add a little bit of flour here. It doesn't stick. So when you are rolling out your pie crust dough, you want to try to make it smooth and flat and even, so you don't have like thick chunks of crust here and too thin over there. Especially if you get too thin, it will not be good because your pie can start to leak, and that is not a fun mess. Speaking from personal experience on that one, it's not fun at all. Okay, so and how to tell is you just run your hand over the crust. Oops, sorry guys. Change your camera angle. There you go. You just feel the crust for any bumps. There's a bump here, so I'm going to smooth that out. That is pretty good. And you can see it's like a marbled looking crust, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to see how this compares to our pan over here. Let's turn my fire down on the butter. We don't want burned butter, we just want melted butter. Okay, this might be a little bit on the small side, but it will be all right, I think. Okay. Anything where it's like kind of crumbly over here, you just press it together with your fingers real quick. That'll be just fine. And then you use your rolling pin and roll it up. It won't stick to itself usually. You don't want to like push on it, but this is one of the easier ways to transfer pie crust. Okay, not too bad. Just kind of ease it on in. Okay. You can kind of shift it around. Just rip off a piece here and shove it over there. No worries. I'm going to pull my butter off the fire. I have an electric stove now. I can't even tell you, like, the transition from cooking to on a gas stove all your life going to electric is rough. I do pretty well now, but still it takes me a while to think about, oh wait, I need to think about that a little differently, you know? Timing wise, everything's a little different. Okay, so that's pretty good, I think, for our crust. I don't want a big fluted edge or anything. We're going to be doing a lattice crust on top, so I'm just going to keep this real simple. That's nice. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in the fridge for a minute. Okay, our melted butter over here is happening. Okay, guys, throw our flour in there. Get that going. Cook that up a little bit. I don't know if you guys can hear my kiddos in the background, but they are having a lot of fun playing with their dad in the toy room right now. And fighting, sounds like. Sorry about that. Okay, so our melted butter with our flour. Okay, and then we're going to add our our sugar water mix here. Add that in. Okay, that is nice. We're going to bring that to a boil, you guys. Get it nice and yummy. Okay, while this is heating up a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and drain my apples because I don't want them to be overly wet. Okay, so we've got apples here. We've got our mix going here with our butter, sugars, and flour, a little bit of water. This is going to boil and kind of become like a thick syrup. And I forgot to preheat our oven, 425. Let's get my pans out of there. Does anybody else store their pans inside their oven? I don't have a lot of cupboard space as much as I would want for that kind of stuff. There we go. Turn the heat back up on that. Get it boiling pretty quick here for you guys. Okay. So while our stuff is coming to a boil, I'm going to go ahead and get my crust back out and put our apples in. Okay, so shift you guys down again here. So we're just going to kind of mound this up in the middle. If you want to get really fancy with this, you can layer them like by hand in a fan like type design, but it's really unnecessary because as these cook down, they're gonna change and shift around a little bit and stuff. And most people don't care about what's inside their pie looks like. They want to see the outside, the crust be pretty, all that. So here we go, mounding these up in the center. Do try to get, if you're using more than one apple, try to have it thoroughly mixed so there's a little bit of each apple type in every bite. Okay. Alright, so our apples are in, our oven is preheating, butter syrup stuff is happening. I'm going to pull out our other crust for the topper and start getting that prepped. I gotta roll that out, and we're doing a lattice, so we gotta cut it. Get it fancy. Okay. I can go over here. And wrap our dough. Sprinkle a little bit of flour on top. Now, if you want to cheat and get store-bought crust, I don't blame you. Home crust can be tricky, especially when you don't do it very often and you don't want to have like a brick kind of thing happen for your crust, especially for a holiday when everyone's coming. So I highly recommend practicing your own crust at home a few times before you make a pie from complete scratch. Just for your sake and that of your guests or whoever you're bringing the pie to, maybe. Definitely practice and get better at the technique. But I do love how this is looking. It looks delicious. Nice and marbled. You see chunks. And you can tell the different colors between the butter and the shortening. It looks fantastic. Okay, so I think this will be about right for our pie lattice. And let's see, I'm looking for my pizza cutter, which I'm not finding. Okay, that's okay. We will use a butter knife. So, just glide across. And depending on how thick you like your lattice or thin, it all works out in the end. If you have a ravioli cutter, that works great to give you a little zigzag pattern. I'm not gonna take too much time to make this look like amazing, but I'm just gonna show you more technique for this. Okay, here is our slices of dough. I'm going to move this over so this can can see our pie. I'm going to start with the bigger piece here in the center. And lay it down. Okay, there we go. Crisscross. Any extra bits you can tuck down into the pie, or you can take it off and share it kind of, I guess. Okay, so here you're gonna lift this up and put it under. So you're gonna do every other like that. Okay, and the purpose of lattice is to have a little bit of a window going on in between. So there we go. This guy real quick. Lift this guy up, that guy down. This can make for a little bit of a tricky thing here. Hopefully I haven't used up too many of my pieces already. Okay. Alright, so this one we want to go under, over, under, over, under. I'll grab another little piece. Finish that under, over, and under. May have used a little bit too much on my going across, but that's okay. It'll work out. Under, over, under, under, over, under, under. Okay, and I'm going to piece this kind of together here for our last bit. Be the world's most beautiful slice, but that's okay. Under, over, under, over, and that would be an under. Perfect. There you go. So that is a basic, like really basic lattice pie crust. Okay. Now we are going to get our butter mixture that has boiled and cooled down a little bit. And we are going to pour this on top of this. This is a little bit different from most apple pie recipes, but it should give it a really delicious, crispy, glazed, browned crust. So here we go. Go nice and slow so that you don't accidentally make this butter sauce go over like that. Try and coat the lattice. Hot sugar on my finger. Okay. A little bit more here. Okay. Naked spots here. Let's get them covered. Okay, scrape out all of that goodness. Now we're going to clean up our spill. Okay, and then I'm going to go and get a wet rag to clean up the sides of this so it doesn't burn and get really stinky and gross inside of our oven. Bottom of my pan too. So just make sure you don't have any of that sauce stuck to the pan on the sides or the bottom, because that will burn and not be nearly as delicious or easy to clean up. Okay, wipe my counter. Always important to clean as you go so you don't end up with a huge massive amount of dishes and you're all tired from cooking and baking. It's not fun. So here we go. All right, make sure we have our bottom of our pie nice and clean. This is kind of soaking in and doing its job. Our oven should be at 425 in a minute here. We're gonna put this pie in the oven. We're gonna bake it for I think 15 minutes. Yeah, 15 minutes at 425, and then we reduce it down to 350. So similar to a custard pumpkin pie, which I need to go get that going. So come back in a minute. I will be posting our pumpkin pie, and then since they both start at 425 for 15 minutes and come down, I'm gonna put them in together and we'll see what happens. All right. Like, share, subscribe if you can, and hopefully this is helping for your holiday pie prepping and just giving you some good techniques and ideas.